Hey book readers, after a 6-month hiatus, I'm back. But just a heads up that my videos are going to be way more sporadic in the future. I have too much work stuff, kid stuff, and life stuff that's kind of going to get in the way of me having any kind of normal video schedule moving forward. But anyway, I recently finished the 11th T Kingfisher book in my reading career, and it got me thinking about the goodies and the baddies. So I'm ready to rank them from worst to first and crown the king of all Kingfisher books. At number 11 is Minor Mage, and this was just a blah story that felt middle grade-ish. It has a hero named Oliver whose magical powers and personality really weren't good enough to interest me, and he's going on this quest that didn't seem to have very high stakes. I think T Kingfisher was trying to show in this one how a little bit of power can go a long way, but the main character here really didn't grow all that much more than what he started as, which was pretty disappointing. Kingfisher also usually does an excellent job with side characters, but even the armadillo sidekick here fell flat. Number 10 on my list is Illuminations, and I wish I'd just skipped this one. It's a super basic YA fantasy about a family of painters whose works of art have these magical abilities, magical powers, and certain powers ward off things while others kind of bring luck or do other kind of powerful magic. The main character, Rosa, discovers this bad magical creature that starts wreaking havoc in her home and could soon do a lot more damage. But she's a dumb kid, and so she tries to hide it, she tries to cover it up, and of course this evil creature does worse and worse things. The book starts kind of snowballing, gets more tense, there's more stress and anxiety, and that's the gist of it, really. Like I said, pretty basic and pretty boring. At number 9, I have What Moves the Dead, and a lot of readers really liked this retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, but me not so much. I wasn't too familiar with Poe's tale going into this one. I was a blank slate for this horror mystery involving mushrooms, zombie-like rabbits, sleepwalking, and illnesses, I guess? I think I've said this before. I don't read mysteries often, but I love T Kingfisher, so it was kind of this tug of war between likes and dislikes, and that's what really made me want to read the book. Sadly, though, the mystery element overpowered the T Kingfisher element, and even though the ending was really well done, this shorty didn't leave me wanting to read other books in the series. Number 8 on my list was The Wonder Engine, and this is book number 2 in the Clock Tower War series, which is really difficult to say. And I didn't like it as much as the first, which I'll talk about in a little bit. This one picks up right where the other one left off, the first one, and as per usual, T Kingfisher's dialogue is amazing, it's hilarious, the main characters interact with each other in such a fun D&D adventure type of way. But the reason I think I like the first one more than this one is that in the initial book, the characters were on the road, they're venturing toward their goal, and I liked getting to know them and getting to see them involved in plenty of action. But this book, the second in the series, just plants them in one spot, one location, one city. It limited the characters in a lot of ways. Plus, the relationships were pretty much the same as the previous book. It felt stagnant, but I'm glad, I guess, that I finished this really easy-to-read 2-part series. Coming in at number 7 was A House with Good Bones, and this is a creepy horror fantasy novel featuring a main character named Sam, who's furloughed from an archaeological dig. She's some kind of archaeologist. So she returns home to North Carolina to crash at her mom's house, and her mom's house actually used to be her grandmother's house before that. So when Sam arrives, her mom is acting really weird, and there are these strange things happening in the neighborhood, and then Sam herself starts seeing, hearing, and feeling kind of weird, crazy, creepy things. And I'm normally not a horror person, like I said, because I'm a scaredy cat, but this one was fortunately like right on the cusp of what I can handle. It was spooky, but not quite scary. It gave me goosebumps, but not nightmares. You know, it was that sweet spot, that sweet spot. Number 6, my T Kingfisher list is Bryony and Roses. This one has a touch of Piranesi vibes to it. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and there are also similarities, of course, in the story that we're familiar with, but there are enough new angles with the curse and the characters that it feels pretty fresh. And Bryony is our heroic gardening protagonist, who winds up, as usual, as this willingly imprisoned guest, I guess you'd say, in the Beast's enchanted home. The characters are likable, but the light-hearted, clever banter between the Beast and Bryony is what really won me over on this one. You can see how each one would be charmed by the other. And in the end, it's a feel-good mystery with kind of a slow-burning romance throughout it out, and it's set in this magical house that can, the house can like create anything pretty much that you want, that you desire, that you ask for. And all of those factors didn't tick every box for me, but enough of the boxes were ticked to make it enjoyable. Number 5 is Clockwork Boys, and this, as I mentioned earlier, is number 1 in the Clocktar Wars series, and it's a short steampunk fantasy book that's almost like a prologue to the second one. It's a misfits on a mission type of book that gathers a group of these flawed characters, starts them off on their quest to stop some magical creatures, and sets up the next novel. And you know, sometimes that kind of prequel-like feel really bugs me, but not on this one at all. And that's because the characters in this one are excellent. This crew is made up of an expert forger, a demon-hunting knight, some shady assassin guy, and this really naive young scholar. And they each kind of have these unique quirks and shortcomings. They're constantly sparring with one another with Kingfisher's typical sharp, witty dialogue. And this was another good T Kingfisher magic system that I like, because her magic systems never get too complicated and they come in moderate doses. There's nothing ever too overpowering or overwhelming about them. At number 4, I have Nettle and Bone, which probably is one of the most popular T Kingfisher books. And it's a dark fairy tale in which Mara, the youngest princess from a small kingdom, has learned that her older sister was killed by this abusive prince who's now remarried to Mara's older other sister, and the prince is hurting that sister as well now. So Mara decides to do something about it. She gets this crew together, as one will in Kingfisher books, and this one is comprised of a witch who can speak to the dead, a fairy godmother, and a knight. And there's this precarious political position kind of overriding the whole adventure. You sense the tension that Mara experiences as she realizes and knows that one misstep could wind up costing the destruction of her kingdom. It's a fun, grown-up fairy tale adventure, and I liked how the main female characters were women rather than teens. They're older, right? They're not younger. And they're strong, they're independent, and they live in this more realistic, really broken world. Snagging the bronze medal in my Kingfisher rankings is 9 Goblins. And this was a cozy, charming, playful novella with typical Kingfisher quirky characters and a plot that actually moves the story forward with some pressure behind it. So we first get to know the personalities of each one of these 9 goblins, and they're just this super lovable gang. Then we get to this battle where an enemy wizard creates a portal that the 9 goblins accidentally kind of follow him through, and it transports them back behind enemy lines. And it's there that they meet this elf who heals and helps magical animals in his forest, and this is a really messy, lonely job that he's doing, but the goblins and the elf realize that they have to work together to solve this magical mystery that's happening nearby. I loved how quick and comprehensive the world building is. You get it in an instant. You are there. You know what this world is all about. You really also figure out the layers of the characters quickly as well. Plus the dialogue. Again, I keep coming back to her dialogue. It's sharp, it's laugh out loud funny at times, and trust me, when the 9 goblins are just roaming around together, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're saying to one another, at any point in the book, you are in for a real treat. Getting the silver medal in this T Kingfisher ranking of mine is Thornhedge. And it's another fantasy novella, another retelling, this time of Sleeping Beauty, and it flips the script on who you're rooting for and what a fairy tale love story looks like. Kind of like a long short story, if that's a thing. It focuses almost entirely, almost exclusively on these 2 characters, and it puts a new twist, a new wrinkle on fairy tale relationships and family dynamics the ones that you're at least familiar with from Sleeping Beauty. It's only 128 pages, and it flies by as it kind of jumps from present to past, past to present, human realm to fairy world, and in these different settings it explores kind of the theme of nature versus nurture, and how even if we can't change our pasts, future decisions and personal outcomes are still in our control. And at number 1, the gold medalist in my Kingfisher rankings, the king of all Kingfisher books, is A Sorceress Comes to Call. Recency bias may be a part of this, but I really love this book, and it's the first read in a long time that I've binged. I mean, I was staying up to all hours of the night just getting through it. I couldn't put it down, didn't want to put it down, had to finish it. And it's set in this world where sorcery is kind of looked at as mostly small parlor tricks, nothing too big, nothing too fancy. But there's this one actually powerful sorceress who's a gold digger, and she wants to marry a rich man and set herself up for the good life, as of course one does. But because you know, even an evil sorceress can't survive without a healthy bank account. But the sorceress, whose name is Evangeline, she has a daughter named Cordelia, and Cordelia has been magically abused, I guess you could say, by her mom, and ignored by her mom for the entire 14 years of her life. And so, of course, sadly, Cordelia is this frightened, nervous little girl. She's scared about every thought, word, and action that she takes. But she's innocent. She's good-hearted. She's this kid that pretty much just wants to get away from her mom. As this evil sorceress tries to pull all the right moves to land a rich guy to marry, the book focuses on the perspectives of mostly Cordelia and then this rich man's sister, whose name is Hester. It has subtle social maneuvering in it. You're kind of inside their heads a lot of the time, or you're kind of seeing behind the scenes as it's kind of like there's a lighter version of the barbs that you can get tossed back and forth in Game of Thrones. There's kind of a lot of that in this. And like I said, I really like when Kingfisher hones in on the characters rather than the magic, which she does perfectly in this. This book doesn't dig too deep into the nitty-gritty details of the magic and of the sorcery. Instead, it puts the spotlight on several wonderful, wonderful characters, like she is great at writing, and we're paying attention to them as they're trying to wrap their heads around this magic that's happening in their world, and we're, the reader, also trying to do the same. You know, we're both kind of witnessing at the same time, which is something we can clearly relate to with them, and it makes the characters even more powerful. There you have it, the best and the worst T Kingfisher books I've read. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, and which Kingfisher book or books I should read next. And as always, happy reading.